the Successful Mind Podcast.
Successful people learn how to make their minds work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Hey everybody, David Nagel, the Successful Mind Podcast. And today we're going to talk about something that helps a person kind of break out of the matrix of the randomness and the susceptibility of the same in life. And the one thing that I don't really talk about a whole lot, but I'm going to start talking about it more and more because because it's just so significant in the effect that it has on a person, is that, you know, we all remember the movie The Matrix, and I actually have a program that's called The Matrix. It helps people see beyond the way that they've been programmed to see in their life. Because the truth is that success is actually easy and that we're born to be a success. But what we've learned and what we've modeled actually keep us stuck. It keeps us sick. It keeps us broke. It keeps us striving for things that seem almost impossible to the average person. I'm not a believer that just a few people can be extraordinarily successful. I believe that there's enough for everybody. However, I also believe that each individual has to rise up to their own potential and become the best version of themselves throughout their lifetime, right? In order to do that. But the idea about things like money, that money should be hard to earn a lot of money, difficult, only a few people can do it, I don't believe that. And I've spent the last 30 years of my life not only proving that myself, but with thousands of clients that I've worked with worldwide. I've created countless millionaires and multi-millionaires in business and various different ways in their life. And you also can do the exact same thing. And here's the thing. You don't need some kind of crazy education or formal education that goes on forever that just keeps you more trapped in a job or specifically in the things that you're doing in your business. You don't have to have anything that is abnormally special about yourself to do it. You just have to be you. And I know that it's hard when we live in a world that says everything that we want is on the outside of us. But it keeps people striving outside of us in order to get what we want. The truth is, everything that you want is already inside of you. You were born to be a success. I thoroughly believe that each one of us has a purpose, that we're always in the purpose, whether we realize it or not, that success is actually easy, that making money is actually easy. In fact, it's kind of an anomaly. The more you make, the easier it actually is. I am not a believer in competition outside of like sports that's designed to be competitive, but not in business. We're here to create. All the faculties of our intellect are creative faculties. And there's no reason for us to compete with each other. That's part of the problem that we've got in our world, is that we're teaching people we have to compete with each other on what appears to be like the survival level of life, which is, what do we do for a living? How do we make money? We're all supposed to get along, but we're supposed to compete with each other, which means somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. That's absolutely not true. There's more than enough for everybody. And everybody brings something very unique to the table. So part of finding this in yourself and actually experiencing the truth behind what it is that I'm saying is that you have to be able to start to see something different than you're currently seeing. So let's start with this idea. Number one, most of the day that we're actually going through, our mind is extremely reactive to what it is that we're doing. We spend the first 20 years of our life with somebody being in authority over us, telling us who to be, what to do, what not to do, what to think, what not to think, literally structuring us with ideas and supposed tools so that we can at least have some kind of a life as an adult, maybe not completely successful, but you'll be able to take care of yourself and your family. And it's really utter nonsense. It's absolutely complete nonsense. I do know that people believe it, and I do know that we've created a world that allows people to live within the structured bubble of that belief, of that semi-truth, so to speak. But no person has to stay there, regardless if you were raised in it. I was raised in it. But something got me out. Let me tell you what got me out. First of all, the desire to do something much different in my life started when things were going terribly wrong. When I woke to the realization that I quit high school when I was 17 years old, I got married young, I had a couple of kids young, and I had no way to fulfill that responsibility in my life. And it was devastating to me at the time. We went bankrupt. We had our car repossessed. We had to leave the place that we were living in the middle of the night because we couldn't afford to live there. We had to move to not a great neighborhood, living next door to not great people. And the only thing that I was really qualified to do was to drive a truck and to drive a forklift. And it's not that those are bad things. It's that those skills did not allow me to live the life that I wanted, nor provide for my family the way that I wanted. And we ended up on food stamps. That's the God's truth. And it was, every day it was extremely humiliating. I would come home and I would think to myself, I've got to find a way to get myself out of this and to provide for my family in a different way. And because I stayed with that thought, I kept persisting with it. In the beginning, it took a long time. It took me 2 years to break through the initial barrier that I was experiencing that was holding me in the place that I was. But I also found out that barrier wasn't on the outside. It wasn't anybody else holding me there. It was me holding me there. And I wasn't doing it intentionally. I was doing it ignorantly because I did not know how to think differently about me, the world that I lived in, and what I was doing. I was following the flippin' rules that were given to me. Now, those rules the only thing those rules would have ever gotten me is 30 years doing the same thing and being absolutely miserable. And one night, which I won't get into this story, but I've told it in many past podcasts, one night, through a kind of an act of desperation, I was exhausted, I was burnt out, I felt completely humiliated and devastated. I got this idea in my mind. Like, I think God sent me this idea, or my higher self, but it came from someplace because I had never thought this before. But it got me to change some things within my own personality, within my own attitude, in who I was being as a person. And when I did that, all of a sudden it was like somebody pulled the drapes back or the veil back, and I began to see something that I never saw before. Within 30 days, my income tripled. And then I went on a journey for 7 years of studying because I wanted to learn how could that possibly happen. And on that path, it was one door opening after another. They started off slowly at first, but with each time I stepped through the door, I was introduced to a different person that would be a mentor, that would be a teacher for me, that would help give me a vision and an idea and show me who to become to the next level that I was going through. Until 1996, when I met the person that was going to be the ultimate mentor that I had in my life. Now, for the 7 years that I was studying, I was making progress within a structured system. In other words, I was working for another company. I was not my own boss. I didn't have my own business. I didn't know anything about business. And in that structure, I was doing unbelievably well with no education. All I was working on was mindset. How can I be a better version of me every single day? And what happened was I was in a competitive structure when I did that. And because virtually nobody else that was in that structure wanted anything better for them, I shone like a shiny star. Now, I've talked about this before. I don't talk about it a lot. because it was not like I was some rock star. It was all in comparison to the environment that I was in. Literally, in the company that I worked for, nobody else wanted much anything better in their life. Of course, they complained like most people do, but nobody was doing anything to change their circumstances. I was driven because I had started to experience something different. And I went from starting off as a truck driver at that company to being at the top of the company when I left 7 years later to start my own business. But the real quantum leap in my life came when I met my mentor, because my mentor did something for me that I was unable to do on my own up to that point. He changed my view of the neighborhood that I was in. And let me explain what that means. Most of us are raised in some kind of a neighborhood that has people in it, that has ideas, beliefs, values, the way people work, the way people interact with each other. It gives us the shoulds, the supposed tos, the warnings of what not to do in our life. And I was in that neighborhood. And even when I started to have a little bit of success, what I did not know was that I was still in this neighborhood of everybody thinking the same way. So I was striving to think more, to be more, to do more, to have more in my life, but my vision was stunted by the long-term view of where I was in my environment. And it wasn't that I had to change the place that I was living or go someplace different. It was that I finally met somebody that taught me how to see beyond the unknown limitations that were in my mind. And that man challenged me at my core to not only think about things different, but to behave differently within the environment that I'm in. And let me emphasize that. My success did not come from going someplace different. It came from me being a different person in the environment that I was in, because I began to see the opportunity that I didn't see before. I started my business in the same house that I struggled in. I became a millionaire in the same house that I struggled in the same neighborhood, right? In the same physical neighborhood, but my internal neighborhood, my internal environment began to change. I began to see things that I had never seen before. And when that happens, it gives you different opportunities in life, right? It gives you something, it's a different awareness. Let's put it that way. You start to see different truths. And at first it was frightening because I had the truths that I was seeing, that I was being woken up to, seemed to contradict just about every damn thing that I had learned growing up. It was teaching me to be a man. It was teaching me to be responsible. It was teaching me what wealth is and where money really is. And it taught me how making money was actually easy at that point. I went from $50,000 a year to $50,000 a month, and it happened in 1 month. It took me 2 months to figure out that actually the reason it wasn't happening prior to that was because I was modeling a work ethic of things being hard. Now, I'm not against hard work as far as being diligent about your work, but most people have it so ingrained in their mind that they don't realize they actually take something that's rather simple and they make it difficult. And making a lot of money is actually really simple, and it's not difficult. But if you only see through the lens of things being hard and all of the nonsense and bullshit that you've been told about making money for a long period of time, you literally don't have the ability to see it any different way. And that was just but one of the many things that having a mentor showed me to be able to see through the illusion that I was given my whole life. And it was like a rocket ship from there. I just went up and up and up, and it's never gone back. And that part was 25 years ago. And since then, I've helped thousands of people all over the world do the exact same thing. And the idea is, if you can begin to see beyond the illusion that you were given, the matrix that you were given about the world that you live in, there is a whole universe of possibility that's all around you right now. You may not be able to see it, but I promise you that it's there. But you have to start thinking different about where you are. You have to be able to see beyond the idea of this is the neighborhood that I feel safe in. And it all starts with a question. It's probably the most important question you'll ever ask yourself. And it's a constant question that needs to be asked, because all decisions that you make from this day, when you watch this, when you listen to this, whether on YouTube or on any of the podcast channels, the only question that you ever have to answer in your life is, what do you want? And make decisions from that place. Now you think about that. Most people are not taught that we make decisions from that place. We're taught, what do we have to do? What do we need to do? What's available to me? Most of the decisions that we make are based on looking at our external environment and seeing either the opportunity or the limitation with that environment, and then determining how to make a decision from that place. But I promise you, if you make a decision from the internal place of what you truly want, not what you think you can accomplish, not what other people told you that you should want, but what you truly want, the matrix, that veil will be lifted for you, and you will see the first step to take in that direction. And I promise you, it will be a fabulous journey.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind Podcast. If you like what you heard and you want to learn more, go to lifeisnowinc.com. I'll see you next week.